Good morning. We're going to continue on with graphing, and we are going to talk about how to plot points on a coordinate plane to actually graph a linear equation. And there's some shortcuts that you can follow to graph every type of function, almost every type of function, but you can always use a table no matter what. So it's always important to remember, if you're not sure how to graph, start plugging in some x values to see if you can figure out what you need to have the y values. Biggest thing is we are doing linear equations right now, which means line. So if you do this and your points don't give you a straight line, then you probably made a mistake when you plug something in. Okay, so typically I tell students they need to plug in for lines 3 points. So what I'm going to do here is it is easiest for me to plug in -1, 0, and 1. Now, if you wanted to do 0, 1, 2, 3, you could. Does not matter. We should end up with the same line either way. So when I say I'm going to plug in -1, 0, and 1, what that means is I'm going to take this -1, I'm going to put it in place of the x there. So I'm going to do -2 times -1 minus 1. Now you can use your calculator for this. That's fine. You get 1 for an answer. Now I'm going to go back and do the same thing. I'm going to plug my 0 in for that x. So I'm going to do -2 times 0 minus 1. When you plug that in your calculator, or do it in your head, you get -1. Okay, final one, I'm going to plug in 1 in that same spot. So -2 times 1 minus 1, and I actually get a -3. So if I plot those points there, I have -1, 1, 0, -1, and 1, -3. This one's a little tricky to do on my ink pad here, but we'll try it. Okay, use your ID and draw a nice straight line through those points. I'm going to make this a little bit thinner. And then one thing you need to remember is that a line actually goes on forever. So we need to put arrows at both ends, so we know that that's going to continue forever. Okay, and there's our line. Next problem. Same idea. Biggest thing that's different here for what I'm going to do is because there's a fraction there, I like to avoid having to graph fractions. So what I do is I always use 0. 0 is easy when I plug it in. But if there's ever a fraction, I always find my denominator and I use that and the negative of that. Okay, so I'm going to use 4 and -4. It doesn't matter which order you plug it in there. The reason I do that is because when I do 1/4 times -4, it actually gives me a whole number there instead of a fraction. Okay, so 1/4 times -4 is actually -1, minus 4 is -5. Okay, and again, we're plugging that in for our x there. Okay, like I said, the 0 is easy. I always try to use 0. So 1/4 times 0 is 0, minus 4 is -4. When I plug in 4, again, because I picked that because it matches my denominator, and I multiply those, my 4's cancel, I actually have 1 minus 4, which is -3. If you're not sure, to type this in your calculator, you're going to do 1 divided by 4 times -4, and then minus 4. You should get the same answer I got. Okay, switch out that -4 to a 0, and then to a +4, and that should help you out. Okay. Plotting this, -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 0, -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4, -3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So we have a nice line there. Go ahead and draw this in. Try to make it as accurate as possible. And notice when I do this, I try to go all the way across the graph. I don't stop after I've covered those 3 lines. That's going to help you out in one of the later units that we're going to cover. Again, I have arrows on both ends because I need to show that my line is going forever. And I am done. Okay. 2 more. Okay, next one. You'll notice that there isn't an x value. I'm still going to pick my values from my table like I did before. And because there's not a fraction, I'm just going to go ahead and do my typical -1, 0, 1. Now, since there's not an x here, I can't actually plug those in. So if I tried to plug in -1, I'm going to get y equals 4 for an answer. If I try to plug in 0, I'm going to get y equals 4 for an answer. And if I try to plug in 1, I'm going to get y equals 4 for an answer. So if I graph that, I end up with 3 points right here. Y is actually a horizontal line if there's not an x there. Okay, and one way to remember this, because the most common mistake I see is that students actually graph this as a vertical line instead of a horizontal line, is that if I do not have an x in my equation, my line will not cross the x-axis. I'm doing the wrong thing here. Okay, and my line isn't quite where I wanted it to be, but it's close. Just changing that to an arrow. Make it red so it matches. And we're good. Okay, horizontal line. So if there's no x, it will not cross our x-axis. Okay, same idea with the next one. We don't have a y this time. So in this one, x is 1 no matter what y values I look at. Okay, so that one's a little bit trickier because it switches it up on us. So we end up having this here. Okay, again, thinking of it like we did with the last one, if I don't have a y in my equation, I will not cross the y-axis. Okay, so that means I have a vertical line that is parallel to the y-axis. Change that so my arrow's at both ends. Make it blue so it matches, and that's it. Okay, so you're going to try the next two on your own. For the first one, this is like a -1 there, but you're going to plug in -1, 0, 1. For the second one, notice there's a fraction, so I'm not going to use those same numbers. I'm going to switch it up and look at my denominator to decide. When you're finished, let us see it so we can help you out and check and make sure you're on the right track. Have a great day.